Hello, everyone. I'm Paul James Caden, and this is The Spirit Side. Many of you have probably already noticed that it's that time of year again, when the internet is replete with articles and videos telling us not to celebrate any of the upcoming holidays. These articles and videos are usually put out by well-meaning Christians who warn us that all of these holidays, Christmas, Halloween, Easter, all have pagan and satanic roots that are very dark and diabolical. They tell us that if we participate in these holidays in any way, we are being displeasing to God, turning from the true worship of the one true God and honoring demons and devils. And we're also opening up our lives to these dark, malevolent powers. It can all seem pretty scary. And in all honesty, this kind of rhetoric really confuses or even frightens a lot of people. And good, average, well-meaning people start to ask themselves, am I doing something wrong by celebrating the holidays? They start to get very guilty, into condemnation. But I want to ask the question in this video, is there any truth to this argument? Is there any truth to the idea that the holidays are dark and satanic and pagan, and by participating in them, we're doing something wrong? Well, in actuality, there was a time in the world when pretty much everybody celebrated the holidays in one way or another. And the only Christian groups who didn't celebrate any of the holidays were fringe groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses. And they were often looked upon by everybody else as being a bit kooky and bizarre, and how could they believe these types of things? It wasn't until the mid to late 1980s when this thought began to creep into mainstream Christianity that perhaps the holidays were satanic. Maybe we shouldn't celebrate them because we're putting our salvation or our relationship with God at risk. But where did this notion come from? Well, I was alive and well on planet Earth when this notion began to be birthed in Christianity. And it all started with a publication company called Jack Chick Publications, or later just known as Chick Publications. I'm not going to get into the whole history of Chick Publications, but Jack Chick was a cartoonist, and in the 1970s he started doing some Christian cartoons and comic strips, and later he started making some Bible tracts, and then a publication company that put out certain books, one of which was called The Two Babylons. Now, Chick Publications was very anti-Catholic, and they pretty much, particularly in this book by Alexander Hislop, The Two Babylons, tied everything that's wrong in the world to the Catholic Church. This was a book that also really tied a lot of the holidays, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, and their symbols to Nimrod worship. If you don't know who Nimrod is, he was a character in the Bible who many say helped build the Tower of Babel. He was like the first Antichrist. So all of these things, all the symbols, everything about the holidays, everything about the Catholic Church, and even beyond the Catholic Church, a lot of things that most Christians believed and just practiced. He said, nope, we have it all wrong. Our worship of God has become satanic and polluted and diluted with Satanism and the worship of Nimrod. Now, when Chick Publications first came out, most people pretty much shunned it. There were very few people through the 70s and through the 80s who really even knew about it. And those who were in the know looked at those who read it and believed it and said, man, these people are fanatical. They're just really over the falls in a barrel. They were looked at as just being the more fanatical Christians, and no one really took them seriously. And in fact, most Christians thought that the things that they preached and wrote about in their books and in their tracts were dangerous to the Christian faith because it was so dark and divisive. But eventually, as I said, it started to catch on in the latter 80s and started becoming bit a bit more popular in Christian circles. Not all, but some. It really gained popularity when the Christian fundamentalist movement got hold of the information that was in the Chick publications. And it really caught on like wildfire when the televangelists, who were very popular in the 80s and 90s, started to talk about it and push some of the ideas that were in the Chick publications. Now, the fundamentalists, particularly the word of faith, prosperity gospel preachers, which were many of the televangelists, they saw an opportunity with some of the ideas that Chick Publications was putting forth. Now, as many of you already know, I was a fundamentalist Christian at one time. I wasn't as legalistic or dogmatic as many of the people around me, but I was still in the movement and I saw how it worked. I knew how it operated, certain pastors and preachers and people. And particularly when it comes to the televangelists, they're very dishonest people. And what they do is pretty much this. They're all about money. And a lot of churches were all about money at that time. The prosperity gospel, whether you were in the prosperity gospel movement or the word of faith movement or not, whether you were Baptist, Methodist, whatever, everybody was touched by the doctrines of the televangelists because they were so popular. Oral Roberts, Kenneth Copeland, Creflo Dollar, Benny Hinn. Everybody watched these people and everybody loved these people. So many of the pastors and preachers of the churches naturally began to bring their doctrines and their teachings into the church because, sadly, it filled pews. It's what the people wanted to hear. It was popular, and Christianity was booming at that time. And so through those same, we'll say, avenues, this whole thing of the Chick publications started to become very popular in Christianity and the different denominations. Because the word of faith, prosperity gospel, fundamentalists, they're very money oriented, as I said. So when they see something that says the holidays are satanic, they're from the devil, they see an opportunity to say, hey, don't spend your money on Halloween costumes, Halloween candy, Christmas presents, and all this type of thing. You need to worship Jesus and put your money toward supporting the gospel. So buy our books, our videos, our products that tell you why you shouldn't celebrate those holidays. And those things started coming out in droves, and people bought them. And there were some very big name teachers and scholars who caught on to this thing, and it was just everywhere. By the mid-90s, it was everywhere, and now it's absolutely out of control. Everybody believes it, and they don't even know where it came from. And in case you didn't understand what I just previously said, let me encapsulate. This teaching that the holidays are satanic did not come into existence until Chick publications started to become more popular in the mid to late 80s. The televangelists and very popular fundamentalist preachers on TV got a hold of those tracts, got a hold of those books, and they weren't necessarily anti-Catholic, but they preached the anti-holiday message, which trickled down into the churches and mainstream Christianity because these people on TV were very, very popular at that time, and many churches started to take on their doctrines, their dogmas, their teachings, and hence this mindset was born. And now I'm seeing a lot of younger Christians in their 20s, 30s, even early 40s who are pushing this narrative. Don't celebrate the holidays. It's the devil's work. And they think it's part of regular Christianity and how they should act. When in fact, back in most of the 80s, the 70s, I mean, I grew up through the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, I mean, all the way back, religious people, Christian people celebrated these holidays and they thought nothing of it. And this teaching, this belief has created a lot of fear and a lot of superstition among religious people. I just watched a video this morning. The guy who made the video, he's a good guy. I have nothing against his YouTube channel or him. He seems very legitimate. I watch his channel. But he had an anti-Halloween video up. And the comments underneath that video were almost enough to break your heart to see what people were saying. I lock myself away on Halloween and pray because babies are being sacrificed that night. Don't take your, the maker of this video said he was going to go out with his kids and hand out some Christian tracts on Halloween night. And they were saying, don't take your kids out even to pass out tracts. If you do, their blood is on your hands for what you're going to do, participating in this night at all. It was all about devils and demons and stay in your house. It was hard to read. And you'll see these kind of comments on every single one of these videos on the internet. If you go and look up, is Halloween satanic or Halloween is satanic on YouTube, you'll get a lot of videos. And if you look at the comments, it's just, like I said, it's heartbreaking, but it's also alarming at the same time to think this is what spirituality, this is what religion, this is what Christianity is to a growing number of people. I watched a very popular YouTube channel last Christmas, and the guy is now anti-holiday, and he's my age, and he's kind of new to Christianity. And so, he took this whole anti-holiday thing on board and just stopped celebrating. He leaves his home every holiday season, Christmas time. He doesn't spend with his family. He doesn't eat dinner with them. He gets in his car. He leaves. He wants no part of it. Even though his family, he said, pretty much begs him just to, celebrate with them, he refuses because he thinks it's satanic. And I don't know where he got the idea, but he said in one of his videos, every time a person bends down to get a Christmas gift from underneath the tree, the Christmas tree, they are unknowingly bowing down to some pagan god of the trees or goddess of the trees, and they were doing God a disservice and jeopardizing their own souls. Now, ladies and gentlemen, people believe this kind of thing when it comes to all of the holidays. Don't buy Halloween candy. There's a curse on it. I've heard this said. Don't eat an Easter egg. There's a curse on it. If you eat an Easter egg or a chocolate rabbit on Easter, you're worshiping and giving glory to the goddess Ishtar instead of Jesus Christ. Stay away from it. People believe this. They don't realize that worship is an act of the mind and the heart. They don't realize that these holidays, to some, have very significant Christian spiritual overtones, and some of them, like Halloween, may be a little spiritual for some people that are Christians. Others, it's just a fun fall family holiday that they celebrate together. They're not worshiping dark powers by eating Halloween candy or a chocolate bunny or getting a present from underneath the Christmas tree. There's no act of the will giving worship and glory and attention to some dark, evil, pagan god or the devil. Worship comes from the heart, not from some exterior thing that we do in our everyday lives, even though it might have some pagan roots. And yes, the holidays, Christmas, Easter, Halloween, some of them had pagan roots to them. But they also had some very early Christian roots. And these things have changed over time. They've become different things to different people. And to sit back and say, oh my God, the blood of your children is on your hands if you take them out. Shut yourself away and pray. I didn't know the family personally, but this was back in the mid 80s when the chick publications were becoming kind of popular. There was a couple years where they handed out Bible tracts to kids on Halloween, but they got so fanatical with this belief that later on Halloween, any kid that came to their door, even if it was a little kid, they sprayed them with Raid bug spray. I mean, how disturbing is that? And this is the kind of thing that this kind of belief does to people. It's not godly. It's not good. It's not of faith. Jesus said, by their fruits you shall know them. And look at what this anti-holiday rhetoric and belief has done to people. It's made them afraid. It's made them superstitious. It's made them violent. It's made them just so dark in their minds and souls. That's not Christianity. That's not God. By their fruits you shall know them. Look at the fruits of this teaching that started in a very spurious, greedy place with the televangelists, who did, I might add, the same thing with the Harry Potter books. That was a multi-million-dollar book industry right there, Harry Potter, but they had to start preaching. That's from the devil. It's full of the occult and witches. Don't read it. If you're a Christian, don't read it. But we have a nice little alternative written by me, Kenneth Copeland or whoever, about the wonderful young boy who finds Christ and goes around doing miracles like Jesus did. It was all about making money and finding opportunities to make more money. And if they could scare people into not spending those millions of dollars on certain things and putting it into their so-called ministries, so much the better. I've seen it happen firsthand. I know how these people operated. I know where a lot of these teachings and things came from, and it's not a good place. The book of Romans in chapter 14, verses 5 and 6, it says, one person esteems one day is better than another, while another esteems all days alike. Each one should be fully convinced in his own mind. The one who observes the day observes it in honor of the Lord. The one who eats eats in honor of the Lord, since he gives thanks to God. You know, folks, the whole 14th chapter of the book of Romans is about Christians who are coming into the Christian fold and telling their brothers and sisters, don't eat certain food, don't observe certain days, make it the bare minimum, only eat vegetables. And the Apostle Paul corrected this by saying, no, whatever you eat, whatever day you observe, holy to God. If it's holy to you, then it's holy in the heart of the one giving the worship. The 14th chapter of Romans also implies that the people who come in and push these teachings and say don't eat certain foods and don't observe certain days, don't do certain things, are people who are weak in faith. It says that we shouldn't put a stumbling block in front of them and do these things spitefully in front of their face, like, ha ha, look at me, you weak in faith, sorry sockhead or some such thing. But it's saying these people are weak in faith because they believe their faith is just that fragile. They have to do these certain things, these certain outer forms of worship to be pleasing to God. And don't we see a lot of that going on today in Christianity because of the fundamentalist movement, because of the televangelist movement? Look at the poison these things have spread in the lives of so many people. I think everyone watching this video, if you believe that the holidays are demonic and satanic and all this sort of thing, go and read the entire 14th chapter of Romans in your Bible. You people that claim to be Bible-believing Christians, and then reevaluate what you believe about this matter and what you're telling other people to do concerning this matter. Is it you who are actually weak in faith and not the people that are just, hey, they believe in God, they believe in Christ, they have their religion, but they take their kids out trick-or-treating on Halloween? That's jeopardizing their faith. They buy presents for their family and loved ones at Christmas. This is jeopardizing their faith. They're bowing to the pagan tree god. They're worshiping some ancient goddess if they eat an Easter egg or a chocolate bunny. I mean, we have to be sensible about these things. And I talk about these things in my videos and my podcast because I don't see anybody else addressing these particular social issues. And these religious issues are social issues because they're dividing so many people. They're making so many people that are Christians bitter and afraid and dark and morbid. That's not what it's about, folks. And if there's something in your belief system that's making you that way, then you need to get rid of it. And please also realize the percentage of people practicing dark witchcraft and doing animal and human sacrifices on Halloween night are very much low in the percentage level. It's not happening on every street corner or every little nook and cranny of any dark woods or the forest on Halloween night. It's just not. Some people have very sick minds, and yes, they will do these kind of things and participate in these kind of things. But most people, even the Christians, it's a religious holiday unto their God. Or it's a family holiday where they just go out and have fun. Nobody's doing anything wrong. Nobody's worshiping the devil. Nobody's putting their soul at risk or exposing their lives to satanic powers for doing these things. They're not even thinking about these things. They're thinking about their family, having a good time, having fun, or their God and their Lord. And we need to stop this madness. If you know someone who is anti-holiday, please share this video with them. because this is really something, it's close to my heart. I've seen a lot of people become very polluted and heavy and not even no light in their lives anymore because of this kind of thing. And like I said, I was alive and well on planet Earth when I saw this thing take off like wildfire, and I know who it came from and I know where it came from. Believe me, I was there. This is not an age-old Christian belief or practice that you're perpetuating with this anti-holiday rhetoric. It's new, and it's much more dangerous than any of the holidays that you're petitioning against, because look what it's doing. By their fruits you shall know them. Remember that. This is Paul James Caden. This is the Spirit Side. I'll see you all in the next upload. Peace. Hey everyone. I just wanted to come back and leave a bit of a footnote to this video, because while editing and putting the video together, a thought came to me that you may play this video for someone, but then they're going to pull out their Bible and give you these scriptural proofs on why we shouldn't celebrate the holidays. Passages mostly from the Old Testament that talk about God saying don't participate in these particular practices or traditions of the nations or the pagan nations around you. But we have to understand something here, that in the Old Testament, in the Bible, the narrative was that God was always telling the Israelites not to participate in the pagan traditions and the pagan ways, because many of them, through practicing or getting involved in these traditions of the nations and pagans around them, were being led away from the one true God of Israel and worshiping false gods. They were obviously a people that was very easily led astray and led off into other religious practices or worshiping other gods, and they were told time and time again not to enter into the practices of the nations around them because they were often led astray. So when the modern day Christian offers you these scriptural proofs of why we shouldn't celebrate the holidays, it's usually taken at a context or put into an argument or a narrative that really doesn't fit the modern day. Because most people that are celebrating Halloween with their families or Christmas or Easter aren't being led away to worship other gods. They're celebrating these days either as I said, just to celebrate and have fun with the family, or it's a religious or a holy day unto them in which they worship their God or their Lord, and they go to church, they say their prayers, they celebrate in a spiritual way that is meaningful to them. So they're not being led away to worship Baal or Ishtar or some such thing as that. So don't let anyone throw these supposed scriptural proofs in front of you and cause it as a stumbling block where you say, oh my God, he didn't talk about this in the video. What do I do now? Because, this is something that you'll often come across, but you have to understand the context of these verses that many Christians are using. And oftentimes, or all the time, they're taking out of the proper context of the biblical story. So I just wanted to leave that footnote for any of you who may need it or want to refer to it later on. And I appreciate you watching. Again, I'll see you in the next upload. Peace.